Good evening, I'm Taylor Thomas with the CTV News Update. Progressive Maryland and PG change makers are warning residents about legislation that's before County Council they say could undermine the recently enacted countywide zoning ordinance. Councilmember Danielle Galeros is sounding off the alarm, an opponent saying too fast-track bills could allow more than 7,000 properties to utilize a different set of zoning standards rather than the ones they were transitioned into as a part of a countywide map amendment. They say the measure could also cut the public out of the process.
These two measures are bad because really what these two bills are about is stopping the voice of the people. Prince George's County is a Democratic county, and the primary just happened. And for the primary, several more progressive, community-centered, community-focused people were elected and won their primary. And it's disappointing that this outgoing county council is seeking to strip the power of the incoming county council or limit their power simply because they themselves are not community-focused or community-driven. These bills would stop the majority that would be coming in from really making sure that the county itself has community-centered development.
Parker is urging residents to show up at council's session this Thursday when they will be taking comments. They also advise residents to submit comments to council no later than Thursday at 3 p.m. There's a lot of discussion concerning the Prince George's School System's assessment report for students. The 2021 second quarter benchmark report shows 76% of 3rd to 12th graders are not meeting expectation in English and language arts. The numbers appear to be even worse for math, with 95% of the students tested not meeting expectation. Chief Accountability Officer Dr. Douglas Strader says these are raw scores.
For the state to define what proficiency is, then we'll overlay that proficiency scale and create scales for our students on each test by each content. So you have to be careful with the inferences that are associated with associating those green bars with proficiency. The green bars up there, looking particularly at the math from benchmark 2, that low percentage of 4%, that doesn't mean that only 4% of our kids are proficient in mathematics. That is not what that means, okay? That's just talking specifically for this assessment. That's how it's clustered. 4% of our kids scored over whatever the high cut score was for this particular assessment. So we have to be careful when we talk about 4% of our kids are on grade level or 4% of our kids are proficient, because again, we haven't taken that additional step of defining what that actually means.
Some board members and parents are calling on PGCPS leaders to identify and address the root cause of these low outcomes. It's only been a month since the new nationwide 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline went live, and officials say they have seen a spike in the number of people reaching out for help. At the end of July, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services switched using the 10-digit suicide prevention line to the 3-digit 988 number. Officials say they saw a 40% jump in people contacting them within the first 30 days. Calls increased 50%, texting went up an astonishing 1,000%, and chat saw a nearly 200% increase in the month of August alone. The report unfortunately does not show the numbers by state. The 117th Congress reconvened today after its long summer break. Lawmakers have a lot on their plate. One of the major issues is approving a stopgap spending bill to keep the federal government open past October 1st. Also on their to-do list is the Get Americans Back to Work Act, H.R. 3104, energy legislation, and millions more for Ukraine. Here are the latest COVID-19 numbers for our area. The Maryland Department of Health has confirmed 1,265 new cases. The positivity rate in Prince George's County is at 10.43%. 9 Marylanders have died of COVID over the past 24 hours. 512 people are hospitalized. You're watching CTV News. I'm Taylor Thomas. WMATA continues Metro Rail updates. More details after the break.
Every 2 minutes, a woman is diagnosed with breast cancer. With your help, we can end breast cancer. We are all stronger together.
A teenager is arrested and charged in last week's shooting near Greenbelt Middle School. On September 7th, Greenbelt officers responded to the area of Spring Hill Lane and Spring Hill Drive for the report of a non-contact shooting involving minors. Police say the 13-year-old suspect was among a group of middle school children when the teen allegedly fired several rounds at the group. The teen is being charged with second-degree attempted murder along with additional firearm-related charges and is now at the Cheltenham Youth Detention Center. As a reminder, County Executive Also Brooks has issued a 30-day countywide curfew for teens. A highway construction worker shares his story of how his first responders and trauma professionals saved his life. Amilcar Menendez of Greenbelt was working on a construction project around the northbound lanes of I-95 near Perryville back in February of 2020. Menendez was struck by a driver and pinned under the vehicle. Maryland State Police helped stop the bleeding on his legs. However, once he got to Shock Trauma Center at the University of Maryland, he had to get his legs amputated.
Can't lie to you, it's not an easy situation, but when time goes on and past a couple of days, everything changed. I start thinking about my family, and I start thinking that there is a reason why God gave me a second chance.
Menendez ended up having 12 surgeries within 25 days. His story was shared during the 32nd annual Shock Trauma Heroes celebration over the weekend. More major construction is on the way for Metro Rail just days after reopening. 5 Orange Line stations, 6 Blue and Yellow Line stations will be closed for several weeks for much of needed work, that is. The affected stations are south of Reagan National Airport. Yellow Line service will not be operating, but trains will be routed through Roslyn.
Critical project, just like this project, state of good repair, safety reliability project, investing in decades-old tunnel and bridge that just need that state of good repair work. But secondarily, the first phase is going to allow us to do a cut-in for the Potomac Yard new station around the Crystal City area, which is exploding in growth and becoming a regional hub. And that new station is going to be really amazing for this region, and we got to get that shut down right to be able to run trains through that. We'll have no service across the bridge into the city, but the Blue Line will be able to go around. So everyone will still be able to get around. There might be a few minutes longer, but we're actually adding more service there as well to accommodate more trips.
Phase 1 of the project goes through October 22nd. Metro will provide shuttle buses. A Danish ship is damaged in Baltimore's Inner Harbor over the weekend. A tugboat was pulling a Danish ship when it struck and hit some wood piling Sunday morning. The ship also hit a U.S. Navy vessel, causing minor damage. This all happened during Fleet Week, which is a time where the public is allowed to tour American, Canadian, and Danish vessels at the Inner Harbor. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Montgomery County's first responders rescued a trapped cat in Calverton over the weekend. Take a look at these pictures from Lieutenant Francisco Martinez with Montgomery County's fire and rescue team. Now, according to officials, first responders received a call about a trapped cat just before 10 Saturday morning. The animal was stuck in the first floor walls of a home on Strauss Terrace after falling from a third floor crawl space. Now, members of the fire and rescue team were able to successfully free the cat. Luckily, it did not sustain any injuries. And still ahead on CTV News, sports with Laurencia Moten.
In sports, DMV native Francis Tiafo falls in the semifinals, but find out what his next moves are. I'm Laurencia Moten, and I'll have that story and more coming soon.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. If you could see you through my eyes instead of your ego, I believe you'd be surprised to see that you've been blind. Walk a mile in my shoes, walk a mile in my shoes, yeah, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes, walk a mile in my shoes, well, before you abuse, criticize and accuse. shoes.
A former UMBC coach is under investigation by federal authorities accused of sexually harassing swimmers. The Baltimore Sun reports that the investigators are now interviewing current and former students after university officials began looking into complaints against Chad Craddock back in late 2020. The former coach is accused of inappropriately touching male swimmers, discriminating against female teammates, putting students in dangerous situations, and mishandling Title IX reports. Craddock had been the coach for nearly 2 decades before abruptly resigning in December of 2020. He committed suicide in March of 2021.
Game 1 of the best-of-5 WNBA Finals took place yesterday between the Connecticut Sun and Las Vegas Aces, and Game 1 did not disappoint. The Aces won a finals game for the first time in franchise history, beating the Sun 67-64. The game was back and forth the entire time, mostly in favor of the Sun until the second half of the third quarter. Head coach Curt Miller explains what he felt led to the shift.
Halfway through the third, I felt, still really that we were in a good position. And then the second half of that third quarter, they started to make some difficult shots, and we could not find any kind of offensive rhythm and missed some shots. We're certainly capable of, forced some shots, and got stagnated by their defense.
The 2022 U.S. Open finished yesterday, and like we covered last week, Maryland native Frances Tiafoe made history. Tiafoe fell in the semifinals to Carlos Alcaraz of Spain. Now, despite his loss, Tiafoe has a lot to be proud of, and he says he showed the world that he can play with the best.
I just proved that honestly, I can play with the best, obviously, and I'm capable of winning Grand Slams. I think everyone knew when I'm playing my best what I could do, but how close I can actually be to be one of those guys and to do this consistently. Obviously through my career I've been pretty sporadic of playing well and kind of veering off for a while, but I've always backed myself against the best players in the world. But I'm doing it on a consistent basis. I'm starting to beat guys I'm supposed to beat more readily, and kind of just ready to take the next step. But I think rankings, honestly, right now, just a number, and I really don't care what anyone else I'm playing. I feel like I can win any match.
Beautifully said. And that's today's CTV Sports Update.
Let's get a quick check now on our 3-day weather forecast. The National Weather Service has issued a flood watch for the DMV area. Heavy showers and thunderstorms are expected throughout the night with a low around 66. Tuesday, mostly cloudy with a high near 80. Wednesday and Thursday, sunny with a high near 81. And now for the community calendar, Prince George's Animal Management is hosting a pet adoption event. Make your home a forever home for a dog, cat, or other pets. The agency encourages adoption over buying. To check out these adorable companions, visit the website listed right there on your screen. The event lasts through the entire month of September. Well, that's a wrap up of our newscasts for tonight. I'm Taylor Thomas. Good night.